Paris is one of the most beautiful cities in the world and my personal favorite. Today I'm going to share with you what the actual cost of living in Paris is, so if you're thinking of moving here or if you're just interested, keep on watching. If you enjoy fashion and life in Paris, definitely subscribe to this channel because there's a lot more of this coming your way. If you want to follow me on my day-to-day, definitely follow me on Instagram and on TikTok because I upload there every day. Okay, so I'm going to take into account the typical expenses that everyone has in an everyday life, starting with rent, then we're going to do utilities, transportation, healthcare, food and groceries, fun stuff, and lastly, fitness. Now, some of these factors don't apply right now because of the pandemic situation that we're going through, but I wanted to include them anyway because someday we're going to go back to our normal lives and these are going to be factors that are going to be important for your cost of life. So, without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so let's get started right away with rent. I believe rent is the main expense for, I would say, pretty much everyone that lives in Paris because, yeah, living in Paris is definitely pricey. I would say that rent depends heavily on the location and the size of the apartment. You can find everything from a super small room to a very big house. Anything that you want is definitely available, but everything has a price, and the closer you are to the heart of Paris, the more expensive it's going to be. The smallest space that can be legally rented in Paris is of 9 square meters, so literally just a space for a bed and probably nothing else because it's such little space. I would say the most common listings for like students and like people that are just coming, you know, for a couple of months or things like that, it's definitely more like the chambre de bonne, which is basically just a room that is on the 2 top floors of the building and that were originally built for the help. But now they're being mostly rented to students or to just young people in general. A chambre de bonne goes from like 10 to 15 square meters. Over that, it's considered a studio. The price for a chambre de bonne in smaller spaces can vary from 400 to 800 euros, depending heavily on the location. Now, a chambre de bonne is a very nice deal, I think, because it allows you to live in a very nice neighborhood that you wouldn't be able to afford in any other way. Do you know what I mean? In my experience, that's exactly what happened. I lived in such a beautiful neighborhood, but I would have not been able to afford. It would have been super expensive to live there, but because there was a chambre de bonne, it was actually not that expensive and I was able to live there for a couple of years. Next up, you can definitely rent a studio. A studio is obviously bigger. I would say the studio probably goes from like 15 square meters to like 25 square meters. That's like a studio. I would say 30 meters square meters definitely it's an apartment in Paris, so it's very small, but yeah, a studio goes, I would say, from 800 euros to probably 1,500, again depending heavily on where it's located. And honestly, when you live in like 15 meters to 20 meters, you can definitely be a lot more comfortable than you are in a chambre de bonne, and it depends a lot on the disposition of the place. I know that when I lived in a chambre de bonne, it was not that bad because even though it was very small, it was super well arranged, and it definitely made it easier to live in such a small space. Obviously, with the years, people have gotten used to the small spaces and they have gotten creative, so you'd be surprised how good a small space can be arranged and how beautiful it can be. If you're a student, I have great news. There is a thing that is called la CAF, and it's basically the government giving you money to help you with your rent. Now, how much you're going to get depends on your own resources and the amount you're paying for rent, but it can be a good amount, so it's definitely good to know that if you're a student and you're coming here, you're going to get some help paying your rent. Next, we have an apartment. An apartment, I would say it starts like around 30 square meters, which it's probably small for other cities, but here it's just definitely normal size. For like a normal sized apartment in like a normal neighborhood, rent can go from like 1,500 to maybe 3,000 depending on the number of rooms that it has. again, depending on if it's close to the metro, if it's a nice neighborhood, it's, you know, everything that it's obviously going to come into play for the price of the rent. We actually did a little bit of research to find out which are the most expensive and which are the least expensive arrondissement to live in. So the more expensive are obviously the first one, the second one, the third one, the 6th, the 8th, the 16th, and the least expensive ones are the 13th, the 18th, the 19th, and the 20th, because they are a little bit farther from the heart of Paris. Also, you are not obligated to live in Paris. There are lots and lots of people that live outside of Paris and come to Paris to work every day by train or by car, you know, whatever works best. It's a lot more affordable to live outside of the city, and it is pretty easy to get to the city. Now, obviously, the public transportation can be a little bit crowded from time to time because everyone that lives outside of Paris, that works in Paris, comes here every day, but the savings that you make on the rent may be worth it. Okay, so for the second factor of our list is utilities. So depending on the case, utilities can be included in the rent. If it's not included, electricity goes for about like 30 to 50 euros monthly. Obviously depending on how much you consume, and also if it's, you know, winter, obviously you're going to consume more, but it should be very affordable. For Wi-Fi and like internet connections and TV and all of that, you can pay from around 30 to 50 euros. I personally pay 30 euros, but I do not have a TV. I only have computers, so I only pay for the internet. And then for your phone, this is one of the most affordable things, I think. It's your mobile phone plan. It can go from literally 5 euros, which is why I personally pay, because I got it in like a limited time promotion kind of deal, and it can go from like 40 to 45 euros, but that is kind of like on the expensive side. You can definitely try and, you know, try to find some promotions and things like that and pay a very advantageous price. And finally, home insurance. It is mandatory. You have to have home insurance if you are renting, and I believe also if you are the owner. The prices for home insurance can go from like 20 euros if you maybe get a student contract, or if you have a very small sized apartment or a chambre de bonne, or like, you know, a studio or whatever, and then maybe from like 50 to 60 if you have more like a normal sized apartment or a bigger apartment. Next up, we have transportation, and can I just say that Paris has, in my opinion, one of the best transportation systems that I have used, and I have been to a couple of cities in the world, so that is definitely saying something. Other than the fact that the metro can be a little bit stinky and you know, it can get crowded sometimes, it's really efficient. You can take the metro, you can take the bus, you can take a bike, you can take a scooter, like the little motorcycles, or, you know, like the scooters that are very small, they can rent. Like, there's definitely something for each person. I personally prefer the metro whenever I'm in a rush, but if I have time, I just take the bus because I prefer to be able to see, you know, Paris, rather than in the metro, you know, you don't see anything, you're just in like the blackout. So for the prices, there's one pass that you can pay for 75 euros a month, and you get access to the metro unlimited and to the bus as well. It's the same pass. If you work at a company, normally they would pay a portion of those 75 euros. So in my opinion, it's a very affordable plan. For the motorcycle, their price can go from like 40 cents to 50-60 cents per minute. So try to do the math because it can quickly add up, but it's definitely super fun to, you know, just do a little motorcycle, like a little scooter ride through Paris, because I don't know, I feel like it's very Parisian. We did it once, and I think it's a fun way to like discover the city in another way. Now for healthcare. Okay, this is a whole topic for me, because until I did the research for this video, I just had decided that I did not want to understand the French healthcare system because it seems super complicated. So I just didn't know how it worked. I just knew that I didn't have to pay much, and I was just good understanding that. But for this video, I have actually tried a little bit harder to understand, and actually 75% of your healthcare charges are taken by the assurance maladie, which is like the French government system. For the remaining 25%, 15% can be reimbursed by a mutuelle, which is a private healthcare company that you are actually going to pay. So that's like the insurance model that we all know, you know, just you pay a certain fee monthly and then they reimburse you whenever you go to the doctor. So around 10% or less it's left are your charge. So yeah, that's pretty nice. If you're a student, it's obviously going to be a lot less expensive. It can go from like 15 euros to probably 25-30 euros a month, or if you're not a student, just have a regular rate. It's going to be probably from around 50 euros, 60, and you can go up from that depending on how much coverage you want. Now for food and groceries, which is in my opinion, I think the second biggest expense, at least for me. And in my opinion, it really depends on the habits of consumption that you already have. Like for example, if you like to eat, you know, like very healthy food, like it definitely depends. But for like grocery shopping for one person, I would say you can do your groceries for 1 month with from 250 euros to 400 euros. It also depends on where you live. If you live in central Paris, it is going to be a little bit more expensive and you're going to find only small supermarkets. So if you want to do like, you know, like a big grocery list, it is not going to be very easy. In Paris, the bigger supermarkets are more like further away from the city and more towards like the outer part, and they're definitely more affordable. It also depends on the brand of the supermarket. For restaurants, it obviously goes from like the fast food restaurants to like really elegant and expensive restaurants. Like if you go to McDonald's or like a taco shop or things like that, you can go from like 10 euros to 15 euros per person. If you want to go to like a little restaurant, you can go from like 25 to 30 euros. And if you want to be a little bit more elegant, there are definitely restaurants you can go from like 70 to 200, 300 euros per person. It just depends on your taste. Yeah, personally, I think like 100 euros or 150 euros if you like to really go out a lot and eat at restaurants, but I don't think you will need more than that to eat out. Next up on our list is fun stuff. I decided to call it like that because it can be so many things. Maybe you like to go to the movies, maybe you like to go to museums. In Paris, there's always something to do, and I think you should be able to find a lot of free things to do. But if you want to, like, for example, visit the Eiffel Tower, it is 17 euros. If you want to visit the Louvre, it's also 17 euros. If you want to go to the movies, the tickets to go to the movies vary from 11 euros to 13 euros. And just like a little side note, food is not great in Parisian cinemas. Like, I don't know how this is a thing, but it's just not. They just have like popcorn and like 2 or 3 things, and I'm like, what? Like in Colombia and in the US, going to the movies is almost like half the movie and half the food. You know, you get your hot dog, you get your nachos, you get your empanadas, you get your sushi, you get like hamburgers. Like, it's half of the experience. But that is not the case in Paris. Like, most people just literally go to see the movie, and I'm like, I just can't. Also, the food at the movies is super expensive. Like, for a little popcorn cup like this, you're going to pay like 10-12 euros. And then if you go to a supermarket, you get like a big bag of popcorn for like 4 euros. So do the math. And the last factor that I wanted to take into account is fitness. The reason why I left it for last is because I don't think this is a necessary expense. You can exercise for free at home, but I wanted to include it just in case you guys, you know, prefer to go to the gym. Gym membership in Paris can go from 30 to 80 euros depending on how bougie do you want to be. At some point I was like, you know what, I'm going to join a gym. I thought it would motivate me more to work out because I was actually paying for it, and I obviously was looking for like the most beautiful one, and I found this gym that you actually have to apply, and there's a waiting list to join it, and it's over 100 euros. So for the total, I have made 2 totals. I have made a very affordable total and a more expensive one, just so that if some of you guys are students or if you're looking for a more cost-effective experience, you can see what a month in Paris would look like for you. Or if you have maybe like a bigger budget, you can also see what a month in Paris would look like for you in terms of cost of living. So for the first result is the most affordable budget, and you can see that I put every category that I mentioned, and it's going to give us a total of 1,025 euros. Now, each of these categories are definitely up to you. You can try to see what categories are most important to you and which are a priority, and maybe try to tweak a little bit of detail so that you can make it even more affordable. So like I said before, if you're a student, the government can help you paying a portion of your rent, so that's also going to help lower your cost of living. Personally, when I was a student living in Paris, I used to have a cost of living per month of around 800 to 900 euros depending on the month, and then everything that I had extra I just saved because that's what I wanted to do. This is just an estimate to give you an idea, but you know your own situation. Definitely try and tweak your budget to fit you best. And now if you have more of a bigger budget, your cost of living in Paris can end up being around 2,940 euros. Now, in my opinion, this is the budget of a person that is financially free. As you can see, I went really big with the budgets just to give you an idea that of course you can be very smart about your money and have a more cost-effective way of living. But if you have the means and you feel like it, you know, this would be the total cost of your living in Paris. I personally do not get anywhere near this amount just because I prefer to save my money and invest it back in my business or in the stock market or, you know, stuff like that. But I just don't like spending money just for the sake of it. Now, I have said this story a lot, like in my story times, like the previous videos that I've done, but you know, there was a lot of people telling me not to come to Paris because it was going to be way too expensive, like no one could afford it. But I just knew what I wanted and I didn't listen to them, and now here I am, and I can definitely say that Paris is not as like expensive as people want to make it seem. Like, of course it's going to be more expensive than smaller cities, but also if you come here and if you work here, you also get a bigger salary, so it balances out the expenses that you have if you have bigger revenues. Try to do your own research and trying to find things for yourself. The internet, it's a beautiful place. You can find everything. You can email, you can call. If you speak French or if you speak English, you can definitely try to find out information on your own. And if you have a very specific question, of course you can send me a DM. I always answer to my DM, so go ahead and do that. I can definitely try to help you out. But that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. If you have any thoughts or if you have any ideas maybe for some videos that you would like to see in the future, definitely leave them in the comment section down below. If you liked the video and if it brought you some value, please give it a like and subscribe so I know, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!